Hi, and welcome to, or back to, my channel. I'm Kit, and today we're going to have a look at the Whatever podcast, which has been getting some attention lately. And before we get into it, I would like to thank everyone for clicking on this video, and I would like to give extra thanks to my patrons and channel members. Last week, the Whatever podcast went a bit viral for all the wrong reasons, which really isn't surprising. Basically, you should endure abuse, but divorcing because a woman cheats is okay. Yeah, it's bad with the bonus of being incredibly stupid. But let's introduce the key players. Brian, the host who wants us to know he does not endorse these other men's opinions. I know this because he called into Destiny's live stream and said he doesn't. Such a shame he couldn't have said that on his podcast, but whatever. Chase, aka Sovereign Bra, who, well, I'll link to the Paul M. Morgan video I did that turned into a video about him. He's extra Christian and his ideas reflect that. John Doyle, I'm not too familiar with him, but he's a commentary YouTuber and he's apparently very Catholic, though I do sometimes suspect that those who claim such are really just there for the misogyny under the guise of religious devotion. And of course, Modern Life Dating, who featured in my last video about the Whatever podcast. He's a YouTuber who, as you likely guessed, offers dating advice for men. And then there's Destiny, a live streamer, and his wife Melina. Google is telling me she's a streamer as well. And as is typical, there's a random assortment of women there. Before we start, I just want to say it's insane the amount of money people give to this podcast. I also want to say, this is not taken out of context. This is exactly as it played out on the live stream itself. And if you don't believe me, the live stream will be linked below. Let's get into it. And to start, how about we have MLD go off about single mothers, the favorite subject of the manosphere? If you're wondering, this rant began because they were talking about men in prison and the importance of fathers in the home and how men, well, you'll see.
They go to gangs in prisons because they have no sense of family and community at home. Because 9 times out of 10, they're coming from a single mother household, which is like the bane on any existence of any societal. Yeah. Single mother households are the cancer of this earth. If you want to have like a good, stable, functioning society, single mother households are the absolute antithesis of what you need to be doing.
It's so interesting how they always talk shit about single mothers, but they never have anything to say about single fathers. It's either single mother or no split in the first place. Because of course, there's very rarely a legitimate reason for a woman to be raising a kid on her own.
Feminism has contributed to that, which is
for sure, 1,000%.
Okay, wait.
Can we just say that feminists?
That was why that one
feminism
super
just like to
chat
blame
was so
for
interesting
everything.
because they were like,
No,
other
I
than
think
feminism, what is to blame for the collapse of the family structure? And it's like at that
Feminist.
point, the slice of the pie chart remaining would be so obscure, it'd be something like fucking video games.
I think a lot of
feminism-
Not even video games. Not even video games.
No,
And there you have it. Single mothers are the bane of this world, and what caused single mothers? Feminism. How? I have no idea. I suppose because most feminists don't hold to the notion that once you're married, it's until death do you part, and once that stigma went, well, it was chaos at the divorce court. Though, in 1969, Governor Ronald Reagan of California made what he later admitted was one of the biggest mistakes of his political life. Seeking to eliminate the strife and deception often associated with the legal regime of fault-based divorce, Reagan signed the nation's first no-fault divorce bill. The new law eliminated the need for couples to fabricate spousal wrongdoing in pursuit of a divorce. Indeed, one likely reason for Reagan's decision to sign the bill was that his first wife, Jane Wyman, had unfairly accused him of mental cruelty to obtain a divorce in 1948. But no-fault divorce also gutted marriage of its legal power to bind husband and wife, allowing one spouse to dissolve a marriage for any reason, or for no reason at all. I don't think feminism played much, if any, of a role in that. And, well, seeking to eliminate the strife and deception often associated with the legal regime of fault-based divorce, are these guys really sure they want to go back to that? I know these folks imagine divorces to be caused by women just getting bored with their husband or thinking they could do better or some other reason, and divorces need to be hard to keep women in marriages, but I would be willing to bet that most men are quite happy having no-fault divorce be legal.
I just want to say this very quickly. I agree that single parent households are
Single mother.
Women. Sorry,
Single mother.
Yeah.
I really appreciate how they all rushed in to correct her. It's not single parents that are the problem. It's single mothers. So single fathers are fine, or they don't believe there are any. This is really interesting because I have no doubt that Chase and likely John, as the traditionalists of the group, share a belief with classically Abby that women are inherently more nurturing and thus more suited to raising children. And for absolutely no reason, I have a suspicion that MLD would agree. And for one, it's attitudes like these that are the reason for why there's more single mothers than single fathers, though that is changing. And for two, so a woman is more suited to raising children when she's married, but when she's not married, she's suddenly unfit for such a role?
Single mother households is that. I completely agree with you guys. I think that's consideration that like,
I'm just having a quiet laugh at how Chase is quieting the host of the podcast.
a lot of times when people use this rhetoric, what they sometimes paint this false picture that it's okay for people to stay together if it means not being a single mother household, even if the situation, the relationship is super toxic, abusive, just not healthy. So I agree, single parent, single mother households are horrible, completely agree with that. But I do think they're better than staying with somebody if he's being abusive to you.
And just like that, someone pops out with a, no, it is not better to raise a child in a single mother household rather than an abusive one. Usually they dance around things like this and hem and haw. This person must feel really comfortable here.
Hitting you, you should not raise your child in that environment.
And MLD is laughing because abuse is just hilarious.
You should get your child out of there because that person is being a danger to your family, to you, and to your child. So I agree
with that.
Yeah.
Well, but that is still an anomaly. I mean, like we mentioned earlier, this is
an anomaly. Let's see. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have experienced some form of physical violence by an intimate partner. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men have been victims of severe physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime. 72% of all murder-suicides involve an intimate partner. 94% of the victims of these murder-suicides are female. 1 in 15 children are exposed to intimate partner violence each year, and 90% of these children are eyewitnesses to this violence.
True statistic.
Extreme
And
anomaly.
80% of couples can recover from that in 5 years.
80% of couples can recover from abuse in 5 years? What is his source for that? Because I, of course, looked for it, and all I found was a study about Australian women recovering from abuse.
And I think it's fundamentally selfish, and you can tell because the type of people who say that, they're like, well, I just wasn't happy, so it's better for the child. It's absolutely not. It's not better for the child.
Is he even listening? She's not talking about divorce in general. She's talking about abusive situations.
But they think that because they're so prideful, they don't want to address whatever they're doing wrong. And their partner is probably, because water seeks its own level, probably just as prideful and narcissistic and doesn't want to address what's wrong and fix themselves. And so they think, well, I'm not happy, so the child must really not be happy.
Interesting. He's ignoring what she's actually talking about, abusive relationships, and talking about what he wants to talk about, which is divorce in general. And it could not be more obvious that he thinks there is no good reason to divorce.
It destroys, especially young boys, if they don't have their father in the household, they're not socialized properly. Like, they're literally screwed for the rest of their lives. Daughters, they don't, it's not as effective to them. I mean, they get a little bit more promiscuous with the guys they date, but in terms of literally just derailing someone's trajectory in life, young girls can more or less recover pretty well, but boys are fucked if their dad's not.
So yes, it is better for a kid to be raised in a 2-parent home. The sex of the parents doesn't matter, sorry. But in no case is it ever better for a kid to be raised in an abusive home, which was the discussion, and I don't understand why he couldn't just acknowledge that rather than try to steer the discussion elsewhere.
I just wanted to say something studying law. I feel like another classes in the street. Men who are raised in single mother households and become criminals because of lack of father figure in their life.
Yes, as she was just making that point.
Yeah.
Criminals, homeless,
What
suicide,
is it?
promiscuity.
Yeah, what you got
I think
for
it's
us?
important
Melina.
to shine. I just think it's important to shine light on the whole fatherless things.
Shine it.
It is.
Shine.
Kids raised by single parents do tend to have poorer outcomes than children raised by 2 or more parents, but do they think about why that is? Or do they just assume that women, because they're not thinking about single parents, they're only thinking about single mothers, as they made quite clear earlier, can't raise a kid on their own despite all the tradcon talk about how women are inherently better at nurturing children, and that's why women should leave paid employment to men, because it's sounding a whole lot like they think women are just bad at parenting.
Melina, what was it that you wanted to say?
Yeah, I was just curious. I just wanted to see like an honest answer on this one. If there's someone that's very, very young, might be really religious and like values marriage a lot, and goes into a marriage and has kids when they're like 18, 19, 20, and then a year into the relationship, it gets really, really abusive.
From who?
Would you? From both.
This is so rare.
Anyone
It's so
really.
rare.
I mean, it happens.
Go on,
I'm just-
go on.
My point is, I'm
Hypothetically.
just, even though it might be rare from what you guys think,
It is.
I don't know who said it is, but no, it's not.
Go on.
if it would happen, what would you recommend for those people to do? Would they divorce, or do you want them to keep going in the relationship?
Keep going.
You can't divorce. I mean, that's not a real thing. You can like separate. See, his Catholic background shines through. He knows. You can't. You can separate, but you can't actually divorce. That's not a real thing.
Even though it might be like physically abusive?
You got to endure. People are too.
You want to stick in the
People
relationship?
are
Is it
just.
called-
I mean, look,
people
I'm gonna be
nowadays
honest.
are just pussies. Everybody fucking quits. Everybody gives up. It's too hard. I'm this XYZ. This is why I'm special, so I can fuck up this entire situation based upon me being special. And the reality is, people just haven't learned to fucking endure. There have been hard times in relationship. I'm sure you guys had hard times in relationship. Any relationship has hard times, and it
Okay.
is what it is. You need to push through, and you need
What if
to
the
endure
kid
because
is
we're in
getting
this.
abused?
Okay, well, there you have it. If you're being physically abused, you just need to endure because people give up too easily these days. Please do not listen to this nitwit in a suit. You do not have to endure abuse. Not physical, not mental, not financial. You do not have to be someone's punching bag until they figure themselves out. No.
Hold on, because we're in this situation now, like where everybody's just creating this like super nuanced, like 1% example of like, well, what if the kid's fucking transgender, black, and abused, and he's a Black Lives Matter supporter? Like, cool, okay, I get like that one fucking
but I'm
minute.
He just really went off some random tangent so unrelated to the question, it can't even see the question. This doesn't even make any sense.
For
Situation.
anyone that might be in that situation, what would you recommend?
Okay, here's,
Endure.
I'll tell
Would
you
they
what.
give up
I'll tell you what
divorce?
I would
I
do.
don't- that's-
I'll tell you what.
Endure.
I'll tell you what I would do. If my daughter was in a relationship with a guy and she gets married to him and he starts abusing her a
Kill the
year
guy.
into it, I'm gonna be showing up on their doorstep and teaching him some lessons.
Exactly.
That's what I would do.
So, if Chase learns that his daughter is being physically abused by her husband, he would beat the man, which is what teach him some lessons means. And that would probably just make it worse for the daughter, and she would just get better at hiding it from her father.
I also would
but,
not if I didn't have the capacity to do that for some reason, I don't know.
He really can't think of a reason why he wouldn't be able to teach someone a lesson. I don't like to be blunt, but someday, Chase, you will be too old to be the strong man. Someday, you will die and you won't be there to defend your hypothetical daughter in the way you think best.
I wouldn't want my daughter in that situation, quite frankly. And I understand the argument to endure because I have people close to me who grew up in abusive households and it lasted for periods of time and it was a phase.
Has it occurred to him that the abuse was not a phase and the people in question just got better at hiding it?
And they endured through it and they ended up raising healthy, successful families.
People take a lot of what they see to be the truth, but no. Just because you don't think someone is traumatized by their upbringing doesn't mean they aren't. Just because someone is a functioning member of society doesn't mean they don't have complex issues from how they were raised or what they were raised with.
To an extent.
So
they
you
weren't the
would say
healthiest
that
families.
to stick in those relationships that might be abusive to everyone involved and a child, if there's a
I'm
child
not
involved?
saying like, hey,
That's
stick in
an
the relationship and get the shit beat out of you by your husband. I'm not.
It's an
I
extreme.
think you guys-
I'm just asking you what you believe.
I'm
on
just
this one
telling you-
specific thing.
I-
Even
I'm
if
not
it's a
telling
small
you-
extreme thing, I'm just asking you what you think if you should stick in that relationship or not.
It is such an extreme example that I can't give a prescription for what other people should do.
It's so rare you can't give a prescription. I'm not buying it, and I'm pretty sure he's already indicated several times now that he doesn't really believe abusive relationships exist, and if they do, they're not as bad as people make them out to be, and thus, people should just endure until it passes. You know, we all go through abusive phases in our lives where we beat the shit out of our loved ones. They just have to wait until we grow out of it. What an idiot.
There is an element of
How do you guys feel about
value. Hold on. There is an element of value in what he's saying.
I'm going to go ahead and say right now that MLD says nothing of value.
But all I can tell you is what I would do
How do you guys feel
as a
about? Do you
father
guys
of
all
a
have
daughter in a
opinions about like?
situation like that.
Well, if he would want his own daughter to endure, I'm pretty sure his prescription is clear, even if he's trying to keep his image clean by not outright saying that he thinks people should try to work through abusive relationships.
Do you have opinions about third trimester abortion?
It's
Yes.
terrible.
Listen,
Okay,
terrible.
Look at how quickly you can develop it. Do you know how rare
Terrible.
third trimester abortions are? They're also really
Yeah,
fucking
they
rare. But
are.
you immediately had a visceral reaction to that,
Yeah.
right? There are households where parents are abusive to children.
I know some people hate what ifs and comparisons, but I think this was a good use of it. They spent the first part of this video dismissing abusive relationships as so rare, so niche, but third trimester abortions? Absolutely not. And third trimester abortions are both more rare than abuse and also medically necessary. There is never a medical reason to abuse your partner.
Like, that's not like an unfathomable thing. But for you to have that immediate visceral reaction to a type of abortion that's so incredibly rare. But then when it's
I
like,
mean, we're
would you
talking
have-
about like a guy like getting drunk and like, beating
have to be
his
getting
wife
drunk.
occasionally versus like somebody puncturing a woman's stomach with a needle and injecting euthanasia into the baby's eye socket.
I'm
It's
just
like a
saying, all I'm
grisly,
saying is that
terrible thing.
third trimester
And it's
abortion
murder.
is in.
So I just heard someone, I think Chase, say it's murder. Is he aware that abuse can escalate to murder? Is he somehow unaware of family annihilators?
Incredibly rare, but you have a visceral immediate reaction to that. But to hypothesize on could there
But
possibly?
well,
be a
okay,
case
so
of murder
so
as
so
well?
so
Yeah.
let me ask you guys, in the Catholic Church, I know that there's like annulments for marriages and stuff. Are there
That
no
was a mistake.
John, the one who just declared that allowing annulments was a mistake, is 23 and unmarried.
Are there no exceptions for like if a guy is beating his wife constantly?
No, there are, but now
Or a woman could as well, right?
Hold on.
Well, there's
Yeah,
also
yes,
a
she could, but-
distinction drawn between
If a woman's beating a dude,
legal-
that guy-
Hold on, guys.
a civil divorce, a legal divorce, and an actual divorce of a marriage. There's a distinction drawn in the Catholic Church where it's excusable to get a divorce in the legal sense.
I mean, look, I'll say this. I know there's like the Christian Catholic position and all that kind of stuff. If a woman is in a situation where she's getting the shit beat out of her by her husband and like he might kill her, yeah, she should leave the marriage, in my opinion.
I'm not sure why that was so hard for him to say, but thanks for finally giving your honest opinion on it. But most people don't think their spouse is going to kill them, so that addendum was unnecessary.
But statistically, like that's not what it is. It's kind of like with the abortion anomaly. That's not like the majority of abortions. So let's like talk about what actually happens. And what actually happens when people are getting divorced isn't these types of scenarios. It's like literally initiated, you'll probably know the stat, between 2/3 and 80% of the time by women.
Being the one to file doesn't mean you were the one who wanted the divorce initially, but to be honest, who cares? I know John is a Catholic who thinks once married, married for life, and that's his business. But I really don't care to try and scrutinize the reasons people get divorced. That's their business, not mine.
And the reasons they feel like the only chapter in their life, like 80% that should be outlawed. You legally actually should not be able to do that.
56% of the time with divorces, one or both spouses cite pornography as one of the reasons why the relationship has come to an irreconcilable.
What's the percent of abortions, divorces that are initiated by women, Brian?
78.
80%.
78.
80%.
80%. And what percentage of those women have college degrees?
Well, it jumps to 90% if they're college educated.
Real.
From the way he set this up, I'm thinking Chase doesn't believe women should go to college. It just turns them into feminists and makes them unsuitable for marriage. But
Okay,
I
but you
wanna-
guys
Wait,
are-
hold on. Wait, hold on. You guys misquote that all the time. The percentage of divorces by women with college degrees is lower as they have more education. But of the women that have college degrees, when they have divorces, there's a higher percentage. So just to be clear, you're better off marrying a woman with a college degree than not, because those marriages have a higher success rate. But when divorces happen, they have a higher. You guys, I hear that stat finagled a lot on these shows, but
I'm really enjoying Chase's perplexed face.
They
Can
are
I ask-
extreme.
Well, I
I'll ask
agree- I
another-
agree with that,
I want to ask
but-
like one more scenario, okay?
Please.
What about if two people get married, they have a kid, and then the wife starts cheating? Do you think they should divorce?
Absolutely.
They should divorce then?
Jesus himself
You don't
said.
think
But it wasn't
Jesus,
it
hold on.
adultery?
Jesus
and you
himself
could like
said.
work things through, right?
Jesus himself said, in cases of adultery, divorce.
So Jesus said divorce in case of adultery is fine, but abuse must be endured. I do love how everyone had an instant reaction to that one. Probably because their minds have been so infected with red pill rubbish that someone being beaten by their partner they can't imagine. Abuse means nothing anymore. People cry abuse too easily. They just need to endure. It's a phase. But a woman cheating, well, red pill teaches that women are always on the lookout for something better so that they can easily believe.
So you think that divorce is worse than physical abuse?
For the
Or
children,
cheating, sorry. You think
Cheating
that
is
cheating
worse
is
than
worse than
physical
physical
abuse.
abuse?
for the
Sorry.
children, yes.
Absolutely
I think I'm not going to say this is worse.
Divorce is worse for the children.
I already
Cheating worse than
said that
physical
if a woman's getting abused, yeah, I think she should leave. Like,
And how long did it take for him to finally say that? And of course, he had to add, if he's going to kill her.
I mean, if it's a brief temporary thing, like
No, you do not get to briefly, temporarily abuse your partner.
What if it's mental abuse?
Okay, now
Do you think
less
if
cut and
it's
dry.
if it's
You're
cheating or
setting
mental
your
abuse?
child up for failure as well if you stay in like these abusive
Look, that's not
marriages.
true.
They will move heaven and earth, do backflips, whatever they have to ensure that women are miserable. Yes, abuse does affect children. And this idea that it doesn't, what planet do they live on? Even Focus on the Family says that abuse in the home is worse than divorce. Do they even care that in an abusive home, the abuse can be directed at the children themselves? So this is mainly just talking, but I did want to share this bit.
I just want you guys to understand this is like the reason why I sit on this podcast and like extol the virtues that I do is because it's like I think we need more righteous biblical masculinity in the world where you actually have good men that are going to be good leaders of their households. They're not going to beat their wives or emotionally or mentally abuse them or any of these things. Like that's why I continue to do this podcast with Brian, because we need to make men great again so that we don't have these situations.
Yep, because we all know good, religious, righteous men have never harmed anyone.
Yeah,
but
you're
it
talking
just-
about liberal men who would
but
get
there's
epically
probably-
triggered
Facts.
like
But there's-
snowflakes.
but there's probably
And
gonna
they'd be like, you're equal to me. I'm going to beat you up.
I would like his source for that because the only thing I could find was an article on a right-wing news site which included the line,
This is yet another reason I don't believe in equality.
and their proof was a study done by a conservative think tank.
But there's probably going to be cases where there aren't very vulnerable marriages. And my question is, do you recommend those people to like choose happiness and like divorce and try to be in their own? Because being in a relationship makes them really unhappy. They just say, do you think they should rather stay just because
You're taking it very, very seriously.
Let's say if your partner is being really, really bad to you, and there's so many things like he needs therapy, but he's not doing it. Do you think the wife might just stick around for that, even though there might be another and the child? If that's around for that, then that's separate.
You're taking extremely niche example. So it's an extremely niche example, and you're blanket stating it for like the entire solution to divorce. You are though. You're saying like one guy's like beating the wife, and then like the kids are like. I'm not concerned, first of all. I've never seen like reconciliation. I always see you guys talk about how you get all these things, but when it comes to like happiness and like mental health, I never see you talk about any of it. And I just this is why I tell people that they need to find God and go to church, because like all these problems that you're describing, if somebody authentically has a relationship with Christ and living in line with the word, it's going to get
Yes, but I do know conservatives that is their church, and they still use their partners.
So wait, you saying no conservative men right now are beating their wives?
No, I'm saying they probably exist, right? And I'm asking you, what would you say to help this? Okay, so liberal men who are beating their wives. There's a lot easier as a liberal if you don't do this divorce, right? But if you're really religious, like really heavily, you have a lot of pressure from your parents and like society, or like the culture, it's going to be a lot harder to divorce. Because you have to because it's just saying, like, no matter what happens, you stay in the marriage. You know, like,
encouraging people to in church. If somebody says a situation like that, this is a concern that ought to be brought before the church and taking care of the elders and the other people that are there. And like, let's say John's beating his wife, right? And his wife comes to the church leadership just saying, this is a problem. This is why I work. This is a positive social pressure that comes with being part of the body of Christ and like actually being involved, right? There's so many benefits to people seeking God, going to church, and like being part of a community like that. Where a situation like you're describing arising, like there's going to be a ton of social accountability.
This is how Chase finished a push for church membership, and you know, I wouldn't feel any safer if my spouse was only restraining themselves from beating me because of social pressure. For that matter, even if social pressure worked, they would probably just switch to a form of abuse that isn't physically evident.
People used to get lynched for doing things like that.
Citation needed. I can see all of John's ideas come from that article I found, though. The idea that chivalry protected women and men in the past would have been outraged if a member of the fairer sex were abused by their spouse, and women are worse off today because the notion of chivalry no longer exists to protect them. But women were never protected by chivalry, and domestic violence was considered a personal matter for the family to take care of.
I think the issue is that, like, in the broadest, in the most macro, broadest sense, I think the big disagreement is it feels like on our side, it feels like we're talking about relationships like they're meant to be enjoyed, and you guys are talking about relationships like they're meant to be endured.
That's the impression I get from Classically Abby's videos. Anyway, they discuss this for a bit and then get around to how, in the Western world, we can live independently so women's standards for a relationship are higher, which leads to talk about how the West is falling, and then super chats, which I don't care about. I did, however, want to include this bit.
Marriage comes down to, in my opinion, how open is it? A single 28-year-old man, I can't speak from experience, but it's like, I will say that as a therapist, and he makes incredible points, and says that there is a lot to be enjoyed in marriage, like you guys are describing. Also, at the same time, it takes personal sacrifice, it takes endurance, it takes like sticking through thick and thin, and like really sacrificing for the relationship. It's not going to be easy.
I think you can say that majority, like nowadays, majority of like average people generally just give up too quick on anything. I think people are like more to like push through things. Like
We can survive better independently in our relationships, and women's standards for enjoying relationships is higher. That's true. We're having an issue like America, most of the world, which is all failing.
failing as a nation, failing as a
What nation are we failing?
Let's see, America, let's see, base rates are on climb. Let's see, we can't get
Answering the question. What country? Or like, what are we coming to?
Okay, so let's talk about failing university.
That's for example, countries, right?
So, like,
What country is failing?
Oh shit, sorry. My bad. Drug use is an all-time high. Self-deletion is an all-time high. Single households going up. American education on every front is like dropping in numbers. So like every objectifiable number. Yes. American let's get to super chats. Super chats coming. Victor Apostol said, "Hi Brian, can I join your content? I joined a support group for young adults/teens just to be prepared for when my kids grow up. In case I screw up anyway, there are 45 millions there. The issues they go through start at parents mismatch." Word? Thank you. Okay, let's go to the next one. Thank you. You guys. Hey, thanks for that, bro. Any more super chats? Yeah, did we do this one? Robert Harold, thank you for $20. Thank you. Definitely not a smart person. Don't leave the guys. Sometimes more hard. See, let's raise his I pray this might see in your mind. You must not reveal himself to you. He will.
Let's be honest, women say everything is abuse.
Yeah.
Facts.
So true.
There is truth to that.
So
There
true.
is.
There is truth
It's
to
like
that.
cut
Like
toxic
Steven
people
Crowder
out
was
of your
not
life.
abusing his wife at all. That was just blown
it
over.
absolutely was.
That was
Come on, dude.
that was
Oh,
3
shit, we're
minutes.
getting
Like
into this one, huh?
3 minutes of him making a mistake. Sorry for the tens of millions of dollars I've made, baby. I'm having a moment as a human right now.
I love this. I really do. Women call everything abuse, and then MLD over here bringing up Steven Crowder. And it's interesting that they think women call everything abuse, but MLD thinks that a 3-minute clip is a blip in Crowder's life, not his usual behavior, despite what his wife said in the clip. And judging from the last, he thinks the amount of money Crowder brings in should excuse his behavior. That's it for the clip, but it is disturbing what hides in these 3, 4, 5 hour long dating podcasts. And though I'm unsurprised, in my Red Pill Women video last year, I did ask former Red Pillers if they had hated women, and if I recall correctly, they all said yes. It is a bit frightening to see it so plainly. But this is what happens when you think women are some lower inconsequential species. You take nothing they say seriously, and you dismiss their concerns. And finally, Brian. I understand he's a bit upset about how people are reacting to this, but though he's not responsible for what his guests say, he can't just step back and wash his hands of all responsibility. I don't know about John Doyle, but this is not the first time Chase and MLD have been on. He knows who they are, and if he doesn't want to be lumped in with them, he should have asked some probing questions of his own. And let's be honest, they would have taken Brian more seriously than they took Melina. And finally, control your guests. MLD in particular has an obnoxious habit of talking over people, especially women. Mute him if you have to. It is your podcast. Grow a spine and take care of it. And that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.